The Nevada sun beat down on the cracked asphalt of our family's driveway in Reno, where I, Emily Carter, had spent my childhood chasing dreams with my younger sister, Sarah. At 32, I was the dependable older sister, the one who'd always been there to fix things, whether it was a skinned knee from a tumble off our bikes or the chaos of our family's finances. Sarah, with her infectious laugh and artistic flair, was the light of our lives, the golden child in our mother Deborah's eyes. I didn't mind. I loved her fiercely, and being her protector was as natural as breathing. Growing up in Reno, where the neon lights of casinos flickered in the distance and the Sierra Nevada mountains loomed like silent guardians, our bond was unbreakable. We'd spend hours sketching in the backyard, dreaming of the future, Sarah with her paintbrushes, me with my practical plans. I'd gone on to become a financial consultant at a top firm in downtown Reno, managing portfolios for clients who trusted me with millions. Sarah, meanwhile, pursued her passion for art, her canvases capturing the vibrant hues of the desert sunset. Our mother, Deborah, was a force of nature, charismatic, controlling, and unapologetically biased toward Sarah. She'd always favored my sister's bubbly charm over my steady pragmatism, often telling me to loosen up or stop being so serious. Our father, Thomas, was quieter, a retired mechanic who preferred tinkering in his garage to engaging in family disputes. He'd nod along to Deborah's decrees, choosing peace over confrontation. I didn't resent him for it. It was just how things were. As the eldest, I became the family's fixer by default. When the roof of our modest ranch-style home leaked, during a rare Nevada rainstorm, I coordinated repairs. When bills piled up, I dipped into my savings to cover them. I even helped fund Sarah's art degree at the University of Nevada when our parents' contributions fell short. It wasn't a burden, it was love. Seeing Sarah's dreams take shape filled me with pride. 3 years ago, Sarah met Jack Thompson at an art gallery opening in Sparks. He was a kind, unassuming guy from a well-off family, with a quiet confidence that complemented Sarah's vibrancy. They were perfect together, and when Jack proposed after 2 years of dating, I was the first person Sarah called. "Emily, he proposed!" she squealed through the phone, her voice echoing with joy. "You're gonna be my maid of honor, right? I can't do this without you." Of course, I promised, already envisioning her perfect day. I threw myself into planning, spending weekends with Sarah scouring venues in Reno and Lake Tahoe, pinning ideas for desert-inspired color schemes, rusty oranges, sage greens, and soft golds. My apartment became a war room of bridal magazines, fabric swatches, and detailed spreadsheets. I wanted every detail to reflect Sarah's vision. But family dynamics, like the shifting sands of the Nevada desert, are never simple. The first hint of trouble came during a family dinner at our parents' house to discuss the wedding budget. Deborah arrived with a sleek, leather-bound planner I'd never seen before. "I've booked the Silver Legacy Resort," she announced before we'd even passed the mashed potatoes. They had one date open this summer, so I grabbed it. Sarah's eyes lit up, but I felt a pang of unease. "Mom, that's generous, but Sarah and I were still comparing venues," I said, keeping my tone light. Deborah waved a dismissive hand. "The Silver Legacy books up a year in advance, Emily. We're lucky they had a cancellation. Besides, I've always pictured Sarah's wedding there." She shot me a look that felt like a challenge, her lips curving into a tight smile. I swallowed my frustration. Sarah seemed happy, and I didn't want to dampen her excitement. But that dinner marked the beginning of Deborah's takeover. Within weeks, she'd transformed from a supportive mother into a wedding dictator, sidelining my carefully researched vendors for her own choices. Friends of friends, mostly, with questionable reputations. The color scheme Sarah and I had chosen was suddenly too earthy for Deborah's taste. "It's fine," Sarah assured me when I voiced my concerns. "Mom's just excited and she's paying for a lot of it." I bit my tongue and stepped back, still helping where I could, paying the deposit for a photographer Sarah adored, ordering custom welcome baskets for out-of-town guests, and secretly arranging a luxury honeymoon to Sedona, Arizona, complete, with first-class flights and a private villa overlooking the Red Rocks. I poured my heart and savings into these gestures, telling myself it was all for Sarah's happiness. But the distance between us grew. My cousin Megan, a Reno hairstylist with a knack for inserting herself into family drama, started appearing in Sarah's social media posts, holding swatches at dress fittings, sipping wine at cake tastings I hadn't been invited to. "Sarah's just busy," my boyfriend Ryan suggested one evening as I scrolled through another photo of Megan at a vendor meeting. "You've been swamped at work too." "Maybe," I said, but the unease gnawed at me. Sarah and I had been each other's confidants for 30 years. Could a few months of wedding planning change that? As spring bloomed across the Truckee River, the invitations to planning events stopped altogether. Sarah's texts became vague. Her calls rushed. "Mom's handling it," she'd say, or "It's already sorted." I kept contributing financially, $2,500. For the photographer, $800 for the welcome baskets, $1,200 for a string quartet I'd arranged as a surprise. The honeymoon alone cost $8,600. I told myself things would return to normal after the wedding, that Sarah and I would laugh about Deborah's takeover over margaritas at her new married home. I was wrong. The day I learned I wasn't invited to Sarah's wedding dress shopping felt like a sucker punch. I found out by accident through a coworker, Natalie, whose friend owned a bridal boutique in Reno. "How was Sarah's appointment at Desert Elegance?" Natalie asked casually over coffee. "They said she found her dress right away." I froze, my latte halfway to my lips. "What appointment?" Natalie's smile faltered. "Oh, at Desert Elegance. My friend said your mom, Sarah, and Megan were there popping champagne. I assumed you were too." I mumbled an excuse about a work emergency and fled to the bathroom, staring at my reflection in the mirror. Sarah and I had dreamed of dress shopping together since we were kids, draping old curtains over our shoulders and giggling about our future weddings. Now, she'd gone without me, and Megan, our attention-seeking cousin, was in my place. That evening, I called Sarah, keeping my voice steady. "How was dress shopping?" A pause. "Oh, it was quick. Mom had an appointment, just a preliminary look. Megan was free, so she tagged along. I could have made time," I said softly. "You could have asked." "Emily, don't make it a big deal," Sarah replied, her tone defensive. "There'll be other wedding stuff for you." But there wasn't. The bridal shower was planned without my input, though I was asked to chip in $500 for the venue. Megan took over the bachelorette party, choosing a flashy Vegas weekend I knew Sarah wouldn't enjoy. When I suggested alternatives based on decades of knowing my sister, Deborah dismissed them as not what Sarah wants now. I kept supporting, from the sidelines, finalizing the honeymoon, arranging a vintage hairpiece to match Sarah's grandmother's earrings, hiring a calligrapher for the place cards. I imagined Sarah's face when I revealed the Sedona trip at the rehearsal dinner, picturing our sisterly bond snapping back into place. Meanwhile, Sarah grew distant. Our weekly brunches at Wild River Grill stopped, replaced by excuses. Too busy with wedding stuff, or Mom's got it covered. When I asked if everything was okay, she brushed me off. "It's fine, Emily, just stress." The final blow came at a family barbecue in May, 2 months before the wedding. I stepped into the kitchen to grab a drink and overheard Deborah's voice from the dining room. "Emily's always been difficult," she said, her tone sharp. "Sarah's finally seeing it. Always trying to control everything, making it about her success." "It must be hard for Sarah," Megan chimed in, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "This is her moment, and Emily's always stealing the spotlight." I stood frozen, water spilling over my glass. My own mother was painting me as a villain, orchestrating my exclusion from Sarah's wedding. That night, I broke down to Ryan, my voice shaking. What if they don't want me at the wedding at all? That's impossible, Ryan said, pulling me close. You're her sister. You've done nothing but support her. But what if Mom's convinced her otherwise? I whispered. You don't know how persuasive she can be. Then talk to Sarah, Ryan urged. No more guessing. Have a real conversation. He was right. I texted Sarah the next morning. Need to talk about the wedding and us. Can we meet tomorrow? Her reply came hours later. Super busy. Come to Mom and Dad's Thursday at 7. Those 5 days were torture. I rehearsed what I'd say, determined to stay calm and avoid accusations. I clung to the hope that Sarah was just caught in Deborah's web, that we could fix this. Thursday evening, I pulled into the familiar driveway of our parents' ranch-style home in Sparks. The air felt heavy, the desert sunset casting long shadows. Deborah answered the door before I could knock, her expression cold. We're in the living room, she said, turning away. Inside, the scene felt like a setup. Dad sat in his worn recliner looking uneasy. Sarah perched on the couch, eyes down, hands twisting in her lap. Deborah stood behind her, one hand on the couch like a sentinel. And there, in my usual spot, sat Megan, her face a mix of smugness and feigned concern. What's going on? I asked, standing when no one offered me a seat. Sarah, I thought we were talking about the wedding. That's why we're here, Deborah cut in before Sarah could speak. There's something you need to understand. Emily. A chill ran through me. What? We've been discussing things, Deborah said, her voice dripping with condescension, and we all agreed your involvement in the wedding is problematic. Problematic? I echoed, looking at Sarah, who avoided my gaze. Your controlling behavior, your need to make everything about you, Deborah said, ticking off points like a prosecutor. You've been overshadowing Sarah's special time with your opinions. And money. I felt the room tilt. Sarah, I said, desperate for her to speak. Is this true? She looked up, her face a mask of guilt and resolve. It's been stressful, Emily. Every time you're involved, there's tension. Mom thinks, I repeated, my voice barely audible. What do you think? Deborah stepped forward, blocking Sarah. Sarah wants a happy wedding. Your presence would make that impossible. The words hit like a freight train. My presence in the planning, you mean? Deborah's lips curled into a smirk, her eyes gleaming with triumph. We all agreed you're not welcome at the wedding. Not as maid of honor, not as a bridesmaid, not as a guest. It's better this way. The silence was deafening. The antique clock on the mantel ticked, each second stretching into eternity. Dad shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. Megan stared at the floor. Sarah, my sister, my best friend, sat silent, severing 30 years of sisterhood. When was this decided? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. Months ago, Deborah said, clearly pleased by my calm. Sarah asked Megan to be maid of honor weeks ago. We just needed to make it official. I turned to Megan. Congratulations, I said flatly. It's nothing personal, she lied, her eyes challenging. I almost laughed at the absurdity. Nothing personal about erasing me from my sister's life. Sarah, I tried again. Is this what you want? Deborah answered for her. Sarah wants a drama-free wedding. You're too controlling, Emily. The venue wasn't good enough. The caterer wasn't up to your standards. That's not true, I snapped, my composure cracking. I've supported every decision, even when I wasn't consulted. I've spent thousands. See? Deborah pointed accusingly. Throwing your money in our faces, using it to control everything, that's why you can't be there. I looked at Dad, pleading silently. He met my eyes briefly, then looked away, his silence a betrayal of its own. A strange calm settled over me, a clarity cutting through the pain. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a calculated ambush, months in the making. Good to know, I said, turning for the door. My movements were mechanical, each step deliberate. Behind me, Sarah called my name softly, but no one followed. No one stopped me. The drive home was a blur, the neon lights of Reno smearing through tears. I pulled over twice, unable to see the road. My phone buzzed with texts, but I ignored them. When I reached my apartment, Ryan was waiting, his face falling as he saw me. What happened? The story spilled out in fragments. Deborah's smirk, Sarah's silence, Megan's triumph, Dad's inaction. They can't do this, Ryan said, his voice thick with outrage. You're her sister. Apparently that doesn't matter, I whispered, exhaustion settling in. What are you going to do? He asked, his hand warm against mine. I stared out at the city lights, feeling hollow, yet strangely free. I don't know yet, but I deserve better than this. Sleep didn't come that night. I lay awake, replaying the confrontation, searching for a misstep, a misunderstanding. But Deborah's smirk was undeniable, her words a deliberate blade. By 4 a.m., I gave up on rest and sat at my kitchen table, a cold coffee beside me. I began listing my contributions to Sarah's wedding. $2,500 for the photographer, $800 for welcome baskets, $200 for the quartet, $8,600 for the Sedona honeymoon, over $15,000 for a wedding I was now banned from. As dawn broke over the Sierra Nevada, I made a decision. I opened my laptop and transferred the $8,600 honeymoon fund back to my account. I canceled the flights, the villa, the private experiences, a cooking class, a sunset Jeep tour, a guided hike through Sedona's red rocks. I emailed the travel agent, citing a change in plans. Then I called my credit card company, reporting unauthorized charges for wedding extras Deborah had added without my consent. $300 for upgraded linens, $200 for favors. It wasn't entirely honest, but it wasn't entirely false either. By 7 a.m., I'd severed my financial ties to the wedding. I emailed my boss for a personal day, turned off my phone, and walked along the Truckee River. The water's gentle flow a stark contrast to the ache in my chest. Sarah and I had shared everything, secrets, dreams, heartbreaks. How could she let this happen? At noon, I met my best friend Olivia at a diner off Virginia Street. One look at my face, and she knew something was wrong. They did what? She exclaimed when I told her, loud enough to turn heads. Your own mother said that to your face? I nodded, pushing fries around my plate. And Sarah just sat there. Olivia's outrage was a balm to my self-doubt. There's something you should know, she said, hesitating. Your mom's been talking about you for months. At Sarah's engagement party, she told my aunt you were jealous of Sarah's happiness. At a neighbor's barbecue, she said you were fragile, that the family was worried about you. I stared at her, stunned. Why would she say that? Control, Olivia said. You're successful, independent. My mom always said Deborah was jealous of you, even when we were kids. The pieces clicked into place, decades of subtle slights, backhanded compliments, forgotten invitations. Deborah hadn't just turned Sarah against me, she'd been undermining me with everyone we knew. I've been so blind, I whispered. You've been a daughter who loved her family, Olivia corrected. That's not blindness. Back are. Home, I turned on my phone. Notifications flooded in. 28 missed calls. Voicemails from Deborah ranging from defensive. You're making this about you again. To threatening. I'll tell everyone what you've done. Dad left a subdued message. I didn't know the extent of this, Emily. Please call. But one message from Sarah at 3:42 a.m. stopped me cold. "I'm so sorry, Emily. Mom's been lying about you. Jack and I found out about the honeymoon. Please call. I need my sister." I stared at her words, torn between hope and distrust. Then my phone rang. Jack, Sarah's fiancé. "Thank God you answered," he said, distressed. "It's chaos here. Sarah's been crying for hours." "What happened?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "We found out what your mom's been doing. Fake texts, altered emails. She told Sarah you canceled dress shopping, showed her texts you never sent. She even rerouted your messages to her own phone." I gripped the phone, reeling. "Why is Sarah telling me this through you?" "She's terrified you'll never speak to her again. Last night, your mom showed up at our place, screaming about ungrateful kids, demanding we choose sides. Security had to escort her out. The manipulation's depth was staggering." Before I could respond, my work phone rang. "Sandra, our office." Receptionist. "Your mom's here, causing a scene in the lobby," she said, "saying you stole money, that you're having a breakdown." I drove to my office, my professional world now under attack. Deborah was in the lobby, shouting as security escorted her out. "She's always been troubled," she declared, her voice echoing. My colleagues watched, and the humiliation burned. My boss, Mr. Daniels, approached. "Take whatever time you need, Emily. Your work speaks for itself." Seeing Deborah's cold fury as she was led away, I realized this wasn't just about the wedding. She was trying to dismantle my life, my reputation, my relationships, my career. But in that moment, something shifted. The hurt child seeking approval vanished, replaced by an adult ready to fight for her worth. I arranged a family meeting at my Aunt Clara's house, a neutral space. I gathered evidence, screenshots of real texts, bank statements, emails proving my contributions. Sarah, Jack, Dad, Aunt Clara, Uncle Mike, and our grandmother Ellen attended. Deborah was invited under the pretense of a budget discussion. I presented the evidence calmly. Fake texts Deborah had sent from my number, records of my $15,000 in contributions, accounts of her public outbursts. Clara shared a similar story, from years ago, when Deborah had alienated her from Dad. Jack described Deborah's meltdown at their apartment. Dad admitted, "I knew some of it, but not the extent. I should have acted sooner." When Deborah arrived, her confidence crumbled at the sight of us and the evidence. She cycled through denial, accusations, rage, and tears, but the truth was undeniable. Sarah stood facing her. "Emily's my maid of honor, as I always wanted. If you can't respect that, you'll have a limited role in the wedding and our lives." Deborah turned to Dad, expecting support. For the first time, he didn't back down. "Enough, Deborah. This stops now." She left in a fury, but the pattern was broken. We weren't healed, but we were moving toward truth. The weeks before Sarah's wedding brought a fragile new normal. Deborah grudgingly accepted our boundaries, her compliance more strategic than sincere. Dad found a strength we hadn't seen, supporting Sarah's decision to reinstate me as maid of honor. Sarah and I rebuilt our bond, grieving the lost months but stronger for it. I resumed my role with clear boundaries, rebooking a scaled-down Sedona honeymoon as a gift, not a plea for love. On the wedding day, the silver legacy glowed under the Nevada sun. As I helped Sarah into her dress, we shared a quiet moment. "I wish we could erase the pain," she said. "I don't," I replied. It brought us truth. The ceremony was beautiful Sarah radiant as she vowed to love Jack. Deborah played her role, her politeness strained but civil. During the reception, she approached me by the gift table. "The calligraphy's beautiful," she said. "You're doing, right?" "Yes," I answered, bracing for a jab. "You've always noticed what people love," she said, her voice soft. "I never had that gift." She admitted to seeing a therapist, a small crack in her defenses. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a start. Months later, we began family therapy. Deborah's progress was uneven, but Dad's newfound voice and our strengthened sisterhood gave me hope. Ryan proposed on a hike in the Sierra Nevada, and I said yes, insisting on a small wedding with clear boundaries. The journey from that devastating night to now was grueling, but it taught me my worth isn't tied to others' validation. If you're facing family betrayal, know that setting boundaries is the first step to healing. Your story matters, and you deserve to be seen.